Mute your mic, man. Hey everybody, welcome to Vikings Report Rewind, our final post-game show of the season, but not our final Vikings Report Rewind show. I'm Ted Glover, your host. With me, as always, my partner in crime on Vikings Report, Drew Bunting, and the other usual suspect, or Kaiser Sose of Vikings Report Rewind, Christopher Gates, the founder and head writer of the SB Nation Minnesota Vikings site, the Daily Norseman. That's dailynorseman.com. And in the background, making all the magic happen, David Toonces Copperfield. Ruby, hope everything's going good with you today. Welcome, everybody, one and all. Minnesota Vikings close out the 2021 campaign with probably one of their most inspiring victories of the year. 31-17 win over the Chicago Bears. Meant absolutely nothing. Finally get a victory formation at the end, but hanging in the balance was the Justin Jefferson single-season receiving record, which the Vikings declined to pursue. Yay! Hi, Drew. How are you?
Somebody ought to, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Somebody ought to kick Zimmer right in the pills. Come on, you dumbass. You got to get Jefferson that. What are you thinking about, man? Look at right up to the end. Bad decisions right up to the end. I don't know. I like the win and everything, but come on. That game, all that mattered, Ted, was records for a game like that.
Yeah. I mean, like going back to what is it, 2011 season, Chris, we were the only thing in that miserable 3-13 season was Jared Allen's sack record, which he came up short, but he was trying till the very last minute of the very last game. How are you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing all right. I mean, another season is in the books, so that's kind of depressing because we're not going to get to see any more Vikings football this year. But yeah, it looks like we're on the verge of a new chapter in Vikings history because I think we're all just kind of waiting for the hammer to fall on Mike Zimmer and possibly Rick Spielman, but we don't know for sure yet. So yeah, that gives us at least a little something to look forward to.
We're going to get to all of that because there's going to be a lot happening this offseason. But give me your general impressions of the game. I thought it was actually kind of a fun game to watch, at least the second half. The first half was pretty uninspiring, but the second half was quite a bit of fun.
Yeah, I mean, the first half was about as ugly as anything we've seen over the course of this year. I think I mentioned to you guys during the game that before that 2-minute drive at the end of the first half, the Vikings had run 18 plays and they had 22 yards of total offense. And, you know, after that drive at the end of the first half, they really turned it on for the second half of play, both defensively and offensively. It was pretty impressive.
Drew, I thought this game encapsulated the Vikings season kind of in a nutshell. The first half was like how bad they can play. The second half gave you this teasing potential of how good they could have been. Yay or nay on that one?
Exactly right. It's exactly how I saw it, and that's how I felt. First off, thanks to everybody who's tuning in today. I want to say thanks to all our viewers, especially thanks for our live show. We appreciate all the views and all the support, and really, really appreciate it. And it's good to have you here today even though, it's the final game of the season. I kind of felt the same way, Ted. I don't know how a team can go from that stale offensively to just letting it loose. How is that even possible? I don't want to hear it's adjustments either, because it's not adjustments. It's like an attitude.
Yeah.
Like they throw in the towel and just start throwing the ball around. They're doing everything they should have been doing the whole game. Why do you walk through it the first two quarters? It's really amazing to me.
It was a complete 180. I mean, Chris, you said it was what, 22 yards total offense?
Yeah, 22 yards on 18 plays before the drive with 30 seconds left in the first half.
That ended up with the Joseph field goal. And then, they opened up the second half. They had the long touchdown to Amir Smith-Marset. They had the long touchdown to Justin Jefferson. KJ Osborne had a really nice touchdown. I don't understand how, and I've said schizophrenic about this football team all year. And that game was the 2021 season in a nutshell, man. They looked absolutely putrid. Nothing but business decisions being made on both sides of the ball, in my opinion, in the first half. Guys looking like they couldn't wait to get out of there. And then they just decided, hey, let's play some football. Let's go out on a high note and have some fun. And they did. And it was, Kenny Willekes had a great game.
That guy is a monster on the edge, Ted.
It was unbelievable. I mean, so you kind of think, well, there's some stuff to really look forward to going into next year. Justin Jefferson, Kenny Willekes, Patrick Peterson even had, they were talking about Patrick Peterson had never gone his entire career without at least having one interception in the season, and then he gets a pick six just a few minutes later. So I don't know. Tell me what to think about this stupid football team.
Man, I don't know. I don't know who the Bears offensive coordinator is, but watching some of those calls that he was making for his team on 4th and 1, it almost made me think we had Gary or Clint Kubiak calling the offense for us. They had 4th and 1 4 or 5 times, and I think they dropped back to pass every time. And every time it wound up with either a sack or the other one ended up with the pick six. But yeah, their 4th down play calling was just atrocious, and it was good for the Vikings. But yeah, there's a lot of guys. You mentioned Kenny Willekes, 2 sacks today, part of 7 total sacks for the Vikings defense on the afternoon. Cameron Dantzler showed up, had a couple of nice plays that Aqib Talib pointed out, and yeah, there's plenty of stuff to get excited about. Like you said, you have to wonder why they once again don't open up the damn offense until they're down by 2 scores, because that's what they always do.
Well, that leads to a good question we've had from T. Kubler. And again, like Drew said, thank you everybody for joining us today. He says, why hasn't Amir Smith-Marset not been used all year to stretch the field? I would argue the few times he was in, he didn't really impress me, but that's just me. Drew, what do you think of that question?
Well, when Clint Kubiak's your coordinator, I'm not going to lay a lot of blame on him for what he does on the field.
Yeah, no.
Stuff. I mean, I kind of agree with you with that, Ted. He didn't really have any splash plays to get me excited about it, but who knows how much was directed to that guy? Probably not a lot.
Yeah, well, and KJ Osborne was reliable 3rd wide receiver all year. So, the opportunities for him to get on the field, I think, would have been kind of limited anyways, Chris. You agree, or am I overlooking something?
He was. Once Adam Thielen got hurt and was out, I would have liked to have seen him get some of the snaps that were going to Dede Westbrook, because Dede Westbrook's not a long-term answer for this team at the wide receiver spot. But, yeah, Smith-Marset should have gotten some more opportunities once Thielen got hurt. I understand that when Thielen was in there, your top 3 of Jefferson and Thielen and Osborne was going to be tough to crack. But yeah, once Thielen went out, he probably should have gotten some more opportunities.
Here's a good question. We'll talk about this one about Danielle Hunter. Riley Emmer has a question about whether or not we should trade Danielle Hunter, but I want to go back to this. We talked about rookies and not getting a chance. That's been kind of a theme, especially with the 3rd round picks. GMAC asks, is it just me, or does it seem like when a rookie got a shot this season, they shine? When you think about Kene Wangwu with the kickoff return for a touchdown when he finally got healthy, Amir Smith-Marset got some extended action today.
Cameron Bynum, when he played.
Cameron Bynum, a great example. It seems like that was the case for the most part.
And see, I had people whining on the Twitter machine at me all day because
people whine on Twitter? I didn't know that.
That's what it. I pointed out that and I saw the stats somewhere earlier in the week that coming into this game, that we know the Vikings had 4 3rd round picks this year, and between the 4 of them, they had played like 90 snaps on offense and defense, and 87 of those were played by Patrick Jones. I don't know if this is like an old school mentality or whatever, but I think that if you're selected in the first 2 days of the NFL draft, you should be contributing right away. We laughed at the Jets a couple years ago because they took their 3rd round pick and cut him after training camp. The Vikings could have done the same thing with Wyatt Davis and Chaz Surratt, and it would have had no effect on their 2021 season because they never played. It's ridiculous.
And Surratt, Wyatt Davis, Kellen Mond, there was debate all week about whether or not some of these guys in a completely meaningless game, whether or not these guys should have played. I think you could make the argument that you could have given Mond some extended action today.
Davis and Mond didn't even dress.
No, they were both inactive. Like it seems like, and it's probably not, but it just seems like Zimmer was being spiteful, maybe a little bit to the end, keeping Mond and Davis inactive, not getting Justin Jefferson the single season receiving record. I don't know. Maybe I'm way overlooking that one or not. Maybe Zimmer doesn't even realize, about the personal records going in. He's just trying to win the game, but it just seemed kind of spiteful.
Yeah, it was totally poopy britches. Come on, poopy britches. That I forgot to add for the Marset, Ted. That's the Marset me and you were calling for like months ago.
Yeah.
When we did our draft, remember we did a little draft right up on him in the summertime. We covered him and looked at some of his footage, and he might have just banked himself a wide receiver position for next year with what he did today. He looked really good. Well, whoever it was asked the question, shouldn't he get more playing time? It's certainly a question worth asking after you watched him today. So maybe that'll help. There are a lot of pieces to look at next year, but he certainly made himself. He did pretty good for himself today.
Speaking of Amir Smith-Marset, Chris Thomason has tweeted, ISM said players were talking on the sidelines about JJ being only 16 yards away from the record. So they knew it. At least the players.
You know what? I'm sorry, Ted Glover. That's the last time I'll ever cut you off.
Absolutely, go.
That's up. Zimmer needs to be kicked in the pills. Goddamn, Kirk Cousins should have said, screw you guys. That's what a leader does. He takes it over at the line of scrimmage and says, coaching staff, 2 big birds. I'm throwing it to Justin Jefferson. That's what he needed to do.
And when he should have done it was
damn it.
It was before the 2-minute warning. It was the Vikings' second to last possession. It was 3rd and 15, I believe it was. And they ran a draw play, which they've done all season. If I'm Kirk, I'm like, you know what? These guys are all getting canned. I might get traded. F it. Here's the plan. JJ, you go long. Get open. I'm going to find you. And we're going to get you this record.
You think Brett Favre's going to run those plays with a record on the line?
No, Brett Favre is going to call it. What Brett Favre would have done, he would have called a timeout. He would have given the double deuces to the sidelines during that timeout and said, I got this. Got in the huddle, called a play, and gotten Jefferson the record, or would have died. And then if he hadn't gotten it on 3rd down, he'd have waved the punting team off on 4th down, and he'd have gotten him the record on 4th down. That's what Brett Favre would have done.
Right.
Go ahead.
There's a perfect chance for Kirk Cousins to go into the offseason building up a little something for himself by saying, I overrode all that. I did it my way. He got the record. At least, Chris, what do you think? Am I harping on that too much?
No, absolutely not. I think they should have gotten him the record. He got that. He got off to a slow start, obviously, because the entire offense got off to a slow start in the first half. But when he caught that touchdown, and I don't know what the hell Eddie Jackson was doing on that touchdown, but it was awesome. It was awesome to watch. But when he got that touchdown, it came down that he's 16 yards away from setting the record. Literally everything from that point on should have been centered around getting that guy that record. Now,
yes,
it would have, and we discussed this before we started. It would have been the most Vikings thing ever for him to try to force the ball to Justin Jefferson, and then he tears an ACL or some crap like that, and whatever. But I still think the effort should have been there to try to center it around getting him that record at that point.
That's as much on Cousins as it is on Zimmer to me.
Yeah, if the players were talking about it, you got to think Kirk knew.
Yeah,
he knew. Come on,
so
grow a pair.
Do you guys remember when Chris Carter was going for his 1,000th catch? I think it was against Detroit. It was either a Sunday night game or a Monday night game, and he was like 4 or 5 catches away. The Vikings funneled the ball to Chris Carter. I think the first 5 catches of the game went to Carter until he got the record, and that last catch was a touchdown. I don't know as a coach how you cannot be aware of an achievement like that for one of your players.
Right?
It's just my thinking on that.
I'm with you, Ted. Yep. I don't see how he knew.
So here's a couple questions we've got. Let's get back. Now we've got, and by the way, if anybody here's the tweet about Zimmer getting fired, we'll come in with a breaking news.
I was still shocked people whine on Twitter, Ted. I never knew that.
Riley Emmer asked a question, and by the way, Riley Emmer also said, hey, right now, based on, I believe the site was called tankathon.com, the Vikings are currently picking 13th in the NFL draft. I'm sure there's some more games that need to be played out, some smoke to clear, but that's where the Vikings are. He asked, do we trade Danielle Hunter? And I think it was GMAC that brought up a good point. Look, Hunter, or somebody in the comments, and it's gone past, and whoever you were, I'm sorry if I didn't get that name right, but said, look, Hunter's the best defensive end the Vikings have when healthy, but looking at those guys that are playing well right now, Wanham, Kenny Willekes, you might get an offer that you can't refuse for Danielle Hunter in the offseason. I don't know. Chris?
I mean, it depends on what you're going to get for him. I mean, if he's got an $18 million bonus that I believe is due on like the 4th or 5th day of the league year. I don't know how him and his agent or the Vikings are going to play it this offseason. I mean, he's been healthy enough to play 6 games in the last 2 years. He missed all of 2020 and he only played the first 6 games of 2021 before he got hurt. Yeah, he's still young. Yeah, he's still great, but are him and his agent going to come along and ask for another pay raise? Are they going to ask for some more guarantees or whatever? You're going to have to see how the situation plays out with him and his agent and the club, and what presumably a new coaching staff and front office is going to want to do. So if you can get a big kind of return for him, then sure, it's something you got to consider, but you'd have to see how it's going to play out with all the different dynamics that are involved.
Per Riley Emmert, after the Browns game, I don't know how that turned out, but whatever the result of the Browns game was, the Vikings have now been bumped up to 12. So
nice.
Take that for what it's worth. One thing, and GMAC brings this up, Hunter's missed a lot of time and he's really pricey. That's not a rebuilding piece, in my opinion. I would respectfully disagree. I think when healthy, Danielle Hunter is a guy you build a defense around. But with 2 season-ending injuries in a row, Drew, is that something you want to take into consideration, or are those just weird, fluky injuries that you can overlook?
I've been a believer to after Zimmer's gone, we need to keep some pieces to the foundation to build a team.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to tell you right now, guys like Hunter are really hard to find. And he's even surprised the Vikings.
Yeah.
Let's face you know what you know about Hunter now? He's not a 3rd-round pick.
No.
He's a top 10 pick. So the Vikings are even surprised by what they got with that. But his talent is really, I mean, you can't just go out and find a guy like that right off the bat. So that's part of me that wants to hold on to him as one of the foundation pieces. And I'm all for cleaning most of the house, but we got to keep a couple guys that are. I think it goes to what Chris Gates just said. If you get an incredible offer for him, you kind of got to make the move and then look at the guy from Purdue with Karlaftis and Ojabo. Yeah, look at him. A few of the 1st-round guys. If you get an incredible haul for Hunter, and I'm telling you, Willekes looked like a cross between Chris Doman and Carl Eller today.
Yeah.
If they cut Kenny Willekes, that guy's going to be a star somewhere else, and they're going to kick themselves in the ass. That guy was premier today.
And,
so
the other thing you got to remember. The other thing you got to remember with Hunter is that it seems like he's been here for a long time. Dude is still only 27 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got more miles ahead of him than he does behind him at this point. So you're not going to let anybody lowball you for a trade offer for that guy.
I'm sorry, Ted, go ahead.
I think Danielle Hunter and Lindsey Lohan are about the same age, and Hunter has way less miles on him than Lohan has on her. I'm just throwing that out there. Take that information for what it's worth.
I think we're ready to start the show now. Let's light this candle.
Go ahead, Drew. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say, there's not a lot of game-changing defensive ends in this league. And when Hunter's healthy, he's one of them.
I agree.
There are very few guys that can change a whole game by himself and cause such destruction to the offensive line to make them worry about him. TJ Watt would be another guy off the edge. I mean, but there's very few. So I don't want to hold the injury thing over his head, but that's 2 years in a row now. I don't know. Man, that's such a tough call because he can be the foundation of your entire defense going forward, starting out with the new regime. But if somebody gives you just a haul for him, Ted, knowing you have Willekes, and Willekes isn't Hunter, I know that, but he played really well today. Knowing you can get a haul for him, it'd be hard to pass up, wouldn't it?
I don't know. I'm very much.
How much money is he going to make next year? What's Hunter going to make?
I think he's got the bonus. Contract. Yeah, he's got the bonus due, $18 million bonus due right at the beginning of the league year, first couple of days. They just redid his deal. I don't think you trade a talent like that away unless you get like an offer. Because I think he's as good, if not better, than the Bosa brothers. TJ Watt, he's right up there, and I don't think you can just lightly trade him away.
No, it would have to be something crazy to where we're going, what? Because I've said in the past Vikings Report episodes with you, if we're going to keep 2 pieces on defense, it's got to be Kendricks and Hunter. So yeah. I'm all for keeping him, but I'm talking about one of those blockbuster offers, Ted, where you're shaking your head going, what?
How can you turn that like a Khalil Mack kind of? Now, if you're talking like a Khalil Mack, that would be at the absolute floor for me.
Yeah.
And it was like a first, a couple firsts and a third, and I can't remember the particulars of the Khalil Mack trade, but it was a blockbuster. And I think Danielle Hunter is as good, if not better, than Khalil Mack when he's healthy. And if you don't get a deal like that, then no, I don't trade him. And
That's
I think the Vikings have an advantage here in terms of his injuries the last couple of years. So I think they can probably get by with giving him a little bit less money than he was expecting, but that's all to play out. Now, speaking of rebuilding, I believe it was who was asking about this. Raymond Hoagland.
Raymond Hoagland. Look that up. Let me toss this in here.
Okay.
According to over the cap, Hunter has a cap figure for next year of about 26.1 million, but he has zero guaranteed money. So if the Vikings were to trade him or whatever, they would just owe him the prorated part of his bonus, which is a little over $6 million. And so, yeah, they would have about $6 million worth of dead cap if they were to trade him away to somebody, but he has no guaranteed money in his contract after this year. So I'm sorry,
okay.
Go ahead with what you were.
Thank you for that info, by the way.
Two more things about the Jefferson thing, and then we'll put this to rest. According to the Fox sideline reporter, Jefferson was begging for the ball to break the record.
Son of a bitch at Zimmer.
Zimmer said, so there's no more doubt according to post-game comments. Zimmer said he knew Justin Jefferson was close to a record. Quote, I don't care about records.
Son
unquote,
of a bitch.
Said what he cares about is his wins.
Guys.
It was, the playoffs were not on the line. I mean, like, nope. if it was for seeding or to get in the playoffs, I would get it, because an interception there and you could lose the game and lose the playoffs. Man, I get that mentality. I do. But you're out of it. You're not going anywhere. Well, the only way you're going is out of the organization. You're getting fired. So
that really
go out with a little goodwill.
That really angers me.
That bothers me a lot. Yeah.
Come on, dude. Yeah. I'm glad you're fired, you loser.
Geez.
I don't usually beg for people to lose their jobs or anything or make light of it, but that's just horrible. That's spiteful bullshit.
It really is. That's spite at that point. It's just spite. So Raymond Hoagland asked, speaking of rebuilding, we talked about Danielle Hunter and the defense. On offense, what do you do with Adam Thielen next year? He's got a kind of a tricky contract. I don't think you can do a lot with it to create cap space. He's got a fairly big cap number next year. Amir Smith-Marset kind of showed out a little bit today. KJ Osborne emerged. You've obviously got Justin Jefferson, who is an elite talent in this league. What do you do with Adam Thielen? He's north of 30. He's kind of starting to get dinged up a little bit more and more every year. Drew, what do you think?
Just so I'm clear, we're done breaking down that monumental classic Bears-Vikings game, right? We're moving on to the future, right? Sounds like we're done going over the particulars of the fifth drive in the second half. By the way, how did Andy Dalton be a starting quarterback for that as long as he did in this league? That guy sucks.
He does.
That guy sucks, donkey butthole.
He does.
He sure
Adam
does.
Thielen. I don't know. How was going to get you guys' opinion on that, dude? Because that is a tough question. It's a very good question, but man alive, is he too long in the tooth? He's a big team guy, community guy. I mean, what do you do with Adam Thielen, guys?
I mean, Kyle Rudolph was a big team guy and a big community guy too, and they dumped him this last offseason. That one kind of made sense with Irv Smith expected to step in, but looking at Thielen's deal, he also has no guaranteed money in his contract.
Really?
He does. Yeah, he's got a. So it looks like if we were to do something to get rid of him, we would have to do something with the bonus. But yeah, he's got no guaranteed money left either. It doesn't appear.
I mean, the skill is still there, guys, but are the injuries catching up with him, Ted? I mean,
I think so. I mean, he's missed multiple games for, I think, 3 seasons now. I think the last time he had a full 16 or 17 game schedule would have been 2017, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, yeah, he's still good. And I don't know if you guys know this or not, But Adam Thielen is a Minnesota native, grew up in Detroit Lakes, went to Minnesota State Mankato. That never mentions when they talk about Thielen.
And much like Hermie, he apparently wanted to be a dentist because he was selling dental equipment. But
what to be a dentist?
Ted was a year off. He played all 16 games in 2018. Missed 6 games in 2019 with the ankle thing. Missed 1 game in 2020 because I think that's when he wound up having COVID. And he missed and he missed 3 games this year. So the last time he played all 16 games was 2018.
I probably lean towards keeping that guy. I like that guy. He's a good receiver.
If you can get a reasonable a decent cap number, there's no reason to let him go. He'd be a good mentor. Teach a proper work ethic. The guy just gets it done when he's in. I'm kind of worried about injuries. It maybe not as bad. I thought he was hurt a little bit more in 2020 than he was. So that's good. Man, there's just a lot, and we're gonna break it all down, man. There's just a lot. Oh, one thing
there is a lot, isn't there?
One thing I want to mention: the Colts with the playoffs winning in scenario for them.
Oh,
got smoked by the worst team in the NFL, the Jacksonville Jaguars.
How does that happen, man? How the hell does that happen?
I don't know. The Vikings seem to do it on the reg every year.
Yeah, and the Jaguars get a double dose of celebration because they wrapped up the number 1 overall pick for the 2nd straight year, and they it looks like they ruined the Colts season because the Colts can still get in, but they need a lot of help now all of a sudden.
Yeah, we're going to show them. We're going to hire Urban Meyer. We're going to turn it around here in Minnesota.
Yeah, no, stop it. So, let's go back and talk about Mike Zimmer's legacy for a minute. And I think I've mentioned this before on this show. I did a fair amount of time in the federal penitentiary called the United States Army, and we had this saying. It said, "One aw shit cancels out 1,000 attaboys," which means for all the good you do, if you do one really dumb, stupid thing, that's what kind of people remember. And when you start going back to the beginning of the Mike Zimmer era, how much this franchise was in disarray, and how he got that turned around, and everything that he had to go through, and we get to today with the kind of which is nothing. It has to be considered just spiteful, just kind of a kiss my rear end on the way out kind of thing.
This terrible thing to do.
Does it now? If they'd have tried and JJ didn't get it, that's one thing. But not even trying. I mean, that just really leaves a bad taste in my mouth. Does this kind of tarnish his legacy a little bit in some way, Chris? Yay or nay? Or is this just kind of a blip in the radar?
I mean, I'm not sure if it. I mean, I don't like the fact that they didn't try to get him the record or whatever. I'm not sure if it really tarnishes anything necessarily. I mean, that's kind of. I don't know. I mean, there's been other times where there's been records on the line for other teams and they haven't pursued them and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, it's not a positive, that's for sure. But I mean, I don't know how. In a couple of weeks, I think a lot of people are going to forget all about this and just kind of move on. So it's not. I don't think it's going to be that big a strike against him.
Drew, does it tarnish his legacy at all?
It's a bad time for me to start talking about Mike Zimmer and the good and bad of his whole thing after what happened today. I'll try to put it to the side and I'll say Mike Zimmer came in here. He's been here 8 years. He's certainly not the same guy the last 2 or 3 as he was the first 2 or 3 when he got here. He had that fire in his eye. He had that fire in his belly. And most importantly, he brought across a culture that the players got behind. And they really bought into it. And he turned out some great defenses, started moving this team right up the ladder. And that's all good. I think that's where the image. Big thing for me was that 49ers playoff game. Not that they lost, but the way they got pounded and handled and embarrassed. I came out of that game. We did a show afterwards. Wasn't Vikings Report. It was a different network. And I said I would think about making a coaching change. Caught a lot of flack for it. Hey, we just beat the Saints. Remember the big Saints high? Everybody's high on the Saints. I said, well, I saw something out there at that 49ers game. I would change. And since then, we've had 34 games and lost 20 of them. And none of those 34 have looked the same, Ted.
No, they haven't.
They've been declining chipping away. The defense has been faltering a little more. Now we're worse in the league besides the Jets. Ever since that Niners game, it's been falling apart. And all you have to do is look at Zimmer on the sidelines physically, his body language.
Yeah.
He's a coach going through burnout. I'm not going to rip on him for burnout because I've seen it happen at the college and pro level over my course of watching football for 50 years a lot.
And at some point it happens to everyone, even the absolute best of coaches.
It does. But his burnout started after that Niner game. And you know what? The Vikings have wasted. Imagine if they would have got rid of him then. They'd be 2 seasons ahead of the game right now with just the last 2 seasons have just been just like water going down the stairs. There's no way to get it back. It's just been faltering and faltering. And I've seen it in front of my eyes. And especially the end of last year, I'm thinking, how the hell can they go into another season? Well, there was COVID. That has nothing to do with what Zimmer showed on the sidelines. He's been a guy that's never paid attention to details. He's never tried to get better on his flaws. And he's continuously not been accountable for his own shit. He's blamed other people for the problems that this team has had. He's continuously done that. And if you're not going to take the blame for it, then you got to move on. You got it. I don't know.
I want to know that, there's been reports coming out. I think Ted said something along the lines of the long knives are starting to come out from various places and whatnot. And I'm kind of wondering how much, Mike Zimmer's personality, Mike Zimmer, whatever. The guy in 8 years as the Vikings coach had 6 different offensive coordinators. Now, a couple of those guys moved on because of the success the Vikings had on offense. We had Pat Shurmur move on and Kevin Stefanski move on. But I want to know why. I would like to know why the guy went through so many offensive coordinators in an 8-year stretch, because, we started out with Norv Turner and then we moved on to Shurmur and DiFilippo and Stefanski and both of the Kubiaks. And I just don't, that seems like a lot of turnover in an 8-year tenure for one coach to have 6 different offensive coordinators.
It is. Now, in his defense, Shurmur and Stefanski got head coaching jobs. So, I mean, you can't fault them for leaving. But there was an issue with Turner. I've heard from different people what really happened. And it wasn't a pleasant departure. DiFilippo, whether he was forced on Zimmer or not, I think will forever be a mystery, but that was a disaster of a hire. Gary Kubiak righted the ship, and then Clint Kubiak was just an absolute wrong decision, I think. Mm-hmm. So if Zimmer got to pick his offensive coordinators, like hiring off the street, I would say he did okay in North Turner until that relationship went sour. But he absolutely failed in DiFilippo and Clint with a K. They did okay with Gary. I think Gary Kubiak was a good hire. Very conservative, kind of old school like him. So that matched, and the offense did well. But yeah, that's a good question that I think is going to be part of the Mike Zimmer epitaph as well.
But Ted, what did he show last year to ownership where they would want to keep him into this year? Tell me.
What now? Say that again.
What did he show last year that would make you feel like, oh, he's the right guy for the job in 2021? I don't get it.
Clint Kubiak?
No, Zimmer.
No, Zimmer.
Oh, Zimmer. Oh, last year. No, I would have fired him last year too. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I was kind of on board with the getting rid of him after the 49ers game, but I understood why they didn't. I mean, it's hard to get rid of a coach after you win a playoff game like that and all that. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, this team is in a weird spot right now. There's enough players on this team that make you think, wow, they, with the right coaching and right staff, they could bring out the best in these guys and they could be pretty good right away. There's also, you can look at the roster and go, man, there's a lot of old aging guys. And if any of those dudes get hurt, if they bring them back and any of those guys get hurt, it could be a lot like it's been the last 2 years. So I don't know where you go from here.
Let me throw this out there when it comes to Zimmer. I think Zimmer's a lot along the lines of, Bill Parcells is always, you got to be stubborn. You got to do it your way to the end. You got to do it your way to the end. This may carry over to what he thought about Justin Jefferson's record today. I go for wins. His whole kind of philosophy throughout all this is, I'm going to do it my way. And I don't care if you're right or wrong or whatever. The fact that he wouldn't fix any of his flaws. I mean, this coach has had clock management problems for 5 years. And he's never gotten any better with any of that. The useless timeouts against Denver, the strip sack we had in Arrowhead to win the game, but he called a stupid timeout for no reason. Yeah. He never got better with any of the clock management, the use of the timeouts. He never got better with any of his flaws. Even though he wanted to call out everybody on theirs, he always seemed like he portrayed I'm sticking to what I believe, and if it doesn't work, I don't care. I'm doing it my way. And I guess there's some good to that to a point, but it's not good for what it didn't work out here.
I think his philosophy and his inability to adapt to the changing NFL, I mean, his philosophy worked when the Vikings defense was a top 5 unit, but it doesn't when you're a bottom 1 or 2 unit, and then not adapting that philosophy and just kind of, going from there, I think was a big part of his demise as well. So we got some more questions. Let's get to these questions. I think we all know Mike Zimmer's gone. We're pretty sure Rick Spielman is going to be moved away from the football operations in the organization or will be gone. The real $64 question is from Dan Lee. What do we think happens to Kirk Cousins, Chris?
I think there might be a team or two out there that thinks they're close enough where they could roll the dice on a guy like Cousins. I think if you can trade him, you move on from him. But it depends on what kind of coach they're going to hire, because there might be some coaches that see Cousins as an asset. I mean, we know that Mike Zimmer wasn't exactly the most offensive-minded head coach, and apparently we've heard all the stories about how he didn't want Cousins from the beginning, and how the offensive philosophy was not what everyone thought it was going to be when they brought Cousins in. So, I mean, there might be some of these potential coaches that see Cousins as an asset. Now, if you see him as an asset, I don't think you could have him at the salary you have him at going into 2022, because that's a ridiculous number. So you would have to do some kind of an extension for him. But if I'm the Vikings, I think if you can find somebody to take him, you trade him away. But you're going to have to find the right situation, like when the Eagles kind of foisted Sam Bradford on Minnesota after the Bridgewater injury. You got to have that timing, and the team that you have to have the right timing, the right team, and the right situation to potentially move him. And you're not going to give him away for next to nothing either. So it depends on what kind of coach they're going to hire, whether they see Cousins as an asset or not.
Drew, what do you think?
Tough to move, especially with $35 million. Somebody's got to take on the contract end of it.
I think it's $35 million cap hit.
I think there's a lot less trade partners out there than people think. People are, the Facebook and everything's full of, everybody wants Kirk Cousins because they're a quarterback away from the Super Bowl. You know what? Mm-hmm. That's what we thought in 2018.
Yep.
So may want to rethink that, quarterback away from the Super Bowl.
How'd that work out for us?
I defer to everybody else's opinion on. I haven't really let it process enough what to do with Kirk Cousins. Oh man, it's tough. He does just enough to be a quarterback who you could work with, and then he's just flawed enough where you think I can't work with him. It's right in between. It's tough. It's a tough call, Ted.
A couple people are mentioning Kirk to New Orleans. Maybe New Orleans has an even worse cap situation than the Vikings do, so I don't know how that would.
Dude, they're like $70 million.
Yeah,
they're bad.
Yeah, I mean,
they're in bad shape.
If you're talking teams with realistic cap numbers that could absorb a Cousins contract with taking on all or even part of the salary, the Browns kind of make some sense. I think they got Stefanski there. He had a relationship with Chris.
I mean, you've got the Browns. You've got Pittsburgh once they clear Roethlisberger's salary off of their cap. Denver, George Payton's the general manager there. He obviously had something to do with the Cousins signing in Minnesota in the first place when he was here. Yeah, it's going to be a limited number of teams, but all it takes is one team to believe that he's the guy that can be their quarterback. And you don't need to have a bidding war. You just need to have that one team that thinks that that's the spot for him.
Is that enough for you guys? Is that all? Just take one. Just give me a team and it'll take him, and let's get rid of him and move on. That's kind of where I'm at. I mean,
it sort of depends on who you get to backfill. I mean, if you get like a, and so then what are they going to do with the position? Is the new staff going to look for a a quarterback in the draft? Are they going to try and get like a starter in a trade for Kirk? You know, some outlets are saying, hey, how about, you know, like Baker Mayfield for Kirk and a Baker Mayfield in the second, or just a lot of people throwing out a lot of stuff, seeing what sticks to the wall right now. So I think that would matter, and I think it would matter on what the new coaching staff's philosophy is in, are we going to get a quarterback in the draft or not? So, I mean, I honestly, I think it would probably be best if the Vikings moved on. If they could get a haul for him and a haul for Khalil Mack, it could actually set up the new staff pretty well if they can use those picks correctly, but we'll wait and see.
What if you guys were coming in as head coach? I'm asking you from a coaching. What if you guys got hired as head coach? What would you say to the owner about Kirk Cousins?
I would say that quarterback is just good enough to get me fired, like he got Mike Zimmer fired, and like he got Jay Gruden fired. And I would want my guy, especially if I am a first-time brand new head coach. I would want my guy to do it my way, and if I succeeded or failed, at least it would be the way I wanted to do it.
Okay, that's what I wanted to go over.
Ruby just passed along the chat to us. Minshew Mania in Minnesota. I would go to the Minneapolis airport and pick that dude up myself and bring him into U.S. Bank Stadium.
President Gardner Minshew, let's go.
That might be a fun signing, right? The fun season.
Absolutely. Get that dude here.
That dude is Favre without all of Favre's talent. But I love that dude, man.
One of his completions yesterday. He played yesterday, right?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
He threw a completion and he started pointing at the wide receiver and like, whoa! Like he was so excited that the guy jumped up and made the catch. It's more excitement than I've ever seen Kirk Cousins do the whole time he was here.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking, you imagine what fun it would be to have that guy with Justin Jefferson and Dalvin Cook.
Oh God, I would love Minshew, but that's just me. I've been on the Minshew mania train since the beginning of the season. I think
he's kind of looking for a home to be a starter, isn't he?
I think so. Yeah. A lot of people have been asking what to do with Tyler Conklin. I think he's going to be an unrestricted free agent.
God, I hate losing that guy.
I do too. I think he had a great season considering the circumstances he was put under at the beginning of the season.
He did, but he's probably going to end up. I mean, he may have ended up pricing himself out of Minnesota. He's gonna be kind of expensive, I think, especially with Irv Smith coming back this next year. I think I saw somebody, one of the salary, one of the people that's smart on that kind of thing, saying that he's going to be in line for a contract at somewhere between $6 and $8 million a year. Ooh. And if you're bringing Irv Smith back next season, you're expecting that guy to produce like you were expecting to produce this year. I don't think you can give Tyler Conklin $6 to $8 million a season. So
that sounds fair. Yeah.
Yeah. That's tough too. Cause I really like his game. I think he fits in here perfectly. And I think he's made some good strides as a tight end. I remember a couple of years ago, that guy was nothing but a blocker. That's it. Yep. He couldn't catch anything. And he's really, I take my hat off to the people that put the effort in to get better at what they aren't at. Zimmer. I do. And it would be tough to lose him, but that guy's a starting tight end for a lot of teams in this league.
Yeah. Well, he had 55 catches this year, something like that?
He got up to over 60, I think.
And that's with all the pressure of Chris Herndon breathing down his neck. Let's not forget about him now. The great trade that was 4th rounder for Chris Herndon. Let's not forget about between Chris Herndon and Wayne Gallman. Oh, the Vikings. Oh, they had it in the bag.
As long as we're talking about, some of the roster moves, I mean, with Wayne Gallman was with the team for 4 games. He played as many snaps as any of us did. 0. And I did.
Hey, Chris, what about Zach Davidson? Tell him that.
Yeah, they signed Zach Davidson to the active roster today, and then they deactivated him for the game. I'm like, what's the point? The hell's the point even? I mean, unless you thought somebody was going to try to grab him off the practice squad so that they could have him under control for. Otherwise, it doesn't make a damn bit of sense. It was like that was one of the many dumb moves that.
Yeah, they signed him and then deactivated him.
Yep.
Does it surprise you though? Is it surprising to anybody?
How much weed is being smoked in the war room? Hey, wait, we can't deactivate him. We just signed him. Oh shit, that's right.
Now it's deactivated anyway.
They're lost. That's just, I don't know. Kind of
Wow.
funny.
Oh, here's something from Jay Johnson. Per Chris Thomason, QB Kirk Cousins declines to answer when asked if he wants Mike Zimmer back and says, quote, "The noise may be loud for your guys," unquote, regarding rumors on Zimmer's future. Holy crap.
What? Go ahead, decipher that for us, Ted. What the hell does that mean?
Yeah, he's getting fired, and I'm glad. I think basically.
Jesus.
The whole Justin Jefferson thing. I was all prepared to come on the show and like give Zimmer, he did this, and winning his good coach for the Vikings. And then that happened. It's like the guy that you're going to kick out of your house that steals money from you the day before you kick him out. Now I have really nothing to say. I don't know.
Yeah.
I have nothing good to say about Mike Zimmer. I don't.
This tweet from also Chris Thomason via Toon says, Kirk won't answer directly when asked if he would be willing to do anything with his contract next season, but reiterated he wants to remain a Viking. And now look, people get on Kirk for not wanting to renegotiate his deal. And so I want to take a minute and say, don't be mad at Kirk.
Right.
Kirk and his agent negotiated the deal, and Rick Spielman agreed to it. You didn't have to fully guarantee
there you go.
Kirk Cousins next year's salary the second or third day of this league year. You did. You didn't have to give Kirk Cousins, well, maybe the first 3-year contract, maybe you had to fully guarantee it to get him on the team, but you didn't have to give Kirk Cousins his first extension. And you didn't have to give Kirk Cousins the first no trade clause in NFL history either. I don't fault any player for not wanting to give away any of his money at all. I think that's dumb for a player to do. And I think if a player wants to hold out because he thinks he's getting underpaid, hold out and try and get a new deal. The time to make money in the NFL is very short. The window of opportunity to get your maximum value is very short. So no, don't ever be mad at a player, in my opinion. Blame the general manager for signing him to that ridiculous, stupid deal.
Yep.
I'm off my soapbox now.
I couldn't say it any better than that, man.
And the Vikings have done this with a lot of people. They just want to do the thing where they kick the can down the road and kick the can down the road and whatever. Yeah. And you can keep doing that as long as you come to the realization that at some point the road has to come to an end, and there's just nowhere for you to kick the can to anymore. And that's kind of what we're seeing with Cousins and the amount of money he's guaranteed next year. And if you want to kick the can further and try to do an extension, and you're gonna find yourself in the same spot again in 2 or 3 years, and they have nobody to blame for this. It's not Kirk Cousins' fault. I mean,
why?
Oh no, you want to give me $45 million? Oh no, I can't possibly.
Right, Chris. Why does all the hate come down on Kirk Cousins for that?
Because
you don't hear any hate from the organization. Spielman gave them the money. The Vikings gave the money. All of you would take the money too. And then get this. And then when things go to shit, because all the other areas are a problem, you caused, Rick Spielman, and the Vikings caused. Now all of a sudden you want Kirk Cousins to give his money back over the problems you made. You made the problems by giving him that money to begin with. He shouldn't be giving it back.
Here's the reason why the shit constantly comes down on Kirk Cousins. Because after the 2017 season, the Vikings were looking at 4 different options at quarterback. They had Sam Bradford, they had Case Keenum, they had Teddy Bridgewater, and they had Kirk Cousins. And the entire damn fan base wanted them to either see if Teddy was ready to come back, because the entire world loved Teddy Bridgewater. And I don't have anything against Teddy Bridgewater. He's a nice kid. I mean, I'm happy he came back from his injuries and everything else that happened to him. Or they wanted Case Keenum or whatever. And they're pissed off that the Vikings went out and took the guy that was clearly the best option at that time. Because if you're going to try to tell me that Case Keenum or Teddy Bridgewater is a better quarterback than Kirk Cousins, you need to be drug tested, honest to God. But at the time, he was the best option, and they thought that they were a quarterback away from, and a lot of people thought they were a quarterback away from being a Super Bowl team, and it just didn't work out. But because the Vikings didn't pick the guys that the fan base knew, whether it was Bridgewater or Keenum or whoever it was, they signed Kirk Cousins. And then literally everything that happens with this franchise is Kirk Cousins' fault.
That's a fair observation. Yeah, that's very fair.
That's very fair.
Yeah.
That's very well said and very fair.
Yep.
So We're coming up on our hour. We usually cut it off at an hour. I don't think Mike Zimmer's going to be fired in the next 5 or 10 minutes, do we?
No, probably not. I think
Probably not. I think maybe we should hang around for a little bit.
I think they'll.
I like
they're
hanging
gonna
around
wait till
just so I
Black
can talk
Monday.
football with you guys because you make me smarter. Both of you guys make me smarter. And I know I talk too much, so just shut me down when you.
No, you're fine.
You're good.
Oh, here we go. Per Thomason about linebacker Anthony Barr on the rumors that Coach Mike Zimmer might not be back. That's just the nature of the business. That's just kind of the way it is. Apparently, Zimmer said a lot of good things about Anthony Barr in his post-game press conference today. I would expect if Zimmer comes back as a defensive coordinator, Anthony Barr ends up playing for Zimmer wherever that team may be. But that's just me.
Yeah,
he's going to be the DC in Dallas.
Yeah, I think so.
That's where he's going. That's what I think.
Well, we are coming up on an hour. I got Christmas decorations I got to put back up in the attic, so we should probably start cutting this thing short. Do you guys have? Hey, we got somebody checking in from Turkey.
That what qualifies for a prize.
Fair enough. We haven't given off a prize yet. Toots Kute. Hey, Kute SL. Congratulations. Thanks for checking in from Turkey. Wait!
What's shipping to Turkey? We need to look into that first.
Get a hold of Vikings Report Drew and Ted at gmail.com.
I don't think we can send to Turkey, Ted. That's international. Honestly.
Okay. All right. Well,
we'll try.
We'll figure something out. If not a prize, I will figure something out. All right. So
no, I like the idea though. I like the idea.
Anyways, thanks for checking in from Turkey. That's really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. That is awesome.
Tell President Erdogan we all said, hey.
Turkey.
If you like him or not, I don't know.
Is that above Canada or beside France? I don't know where Turkey is on the map.
No, it's between Cornish game ham and chicken.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
I like me some turkey, man.
Crossroads of the world, man. Constantinople.
You guys take the leg when it comes to the turkey? What do you take on the turkey, Ted? What's your dark meat, white meat, the leg? What do you go for?
The breast. Always.
Absolutely.
I'm not even shocked. Ted Glover has always been a breast man.
Yeah, well, what can I say? What can I say?
On that note.
All right, we better get out of here before this completely goes off the rail. All right. So Vikings finish 8-9. We expect coaching changes coming. We expect a general manager change in responsibility, front office swap, or a brand new GM, whatever. That's coming. Got a lot of questions we've touched on a little bit. We're going to hit a lot more deeper in the offseason. But for now, the Vikings season is over. We've got a lot coming for Vikings Report with Drew and Ted in the offseason. Don't forget, we're going to start doing some live call-in shows. Some stations call them vent lines. Some stations call them live post-game call-in shows. We're going to call ours the therapy line because we're Vikings fans.
I like that.
That's
Absolutely.
Good. Maybe we can even come up with a nice graphic for it. I don't know.
I'll take care of the graphic.
We're looking to do that in the offseason. We'll probably do a couple before the draft. Our first real call-in therapy line show is going to be draft night, but we'll do a couple before then just to work the kinks out. Not
just calling in, Ted. Your face gets on the screen.
Yeah, and when I say call-in, I mean like this. If you want to come on screen and say hi, you can. You don't have to. If you just want to be audio only, that's cool because you've been crying and your mascara's running and you got your hat on backwards and you've torn your clothes off because you're all mad at the Vikings. That's cool. You just want to talk, that's fine. But if you want to be on screen, you can be on screen. Because
clothing optional? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I did. So anyways, before we get out of here, Chris, any final thoughts?
No, I mean, like I said, the season's over. It's always bad to see the season come to an end, especially when there's not a playoff run at the end of it. But yeah, we're getting ready to enter a new era, a new chapter of Vikings football, and yeah, we'll be here for it going forward. So it's nice to end the season with a win, even if it ultimately doesn't mean anything. But yeah, we got a lot of stuff to look forward to, I think.
Drew,
always love doing these shows with y'all. It's it's a lot of fun. Thank you for everybody who tuned in for Vikings Rewind. We appreciate the comments, and I'm always impressed by the knowledge of the people that contact this show. I mean, the questions are fantastic. They really are. They really are. Thank you for being great Viking fans. And I'm kind of with Chris. This is the last Vikings game of the season, so it's a bummer, but we got a lot looking forward to it and hearing Vikings report. And you know what, Chris Gates, you got to come on some of our studio shows and be part of it too. I don't want to press you for time or anything, but you'd be fun to have on there now and then. So
I can. Just let me know. We can do what we can.
Don't be a stranger, my friend. Thanks for everybody showing up tonight. Ted.
Everybody, thanks for making us part of your Minnesota Vikings game day experience, whether you watched the show later or watched it live. If you watched our studio show before the game as your pregame show, we can't tell you how grateful we are for that. Thanks for watching watching us watch football. Our live watch parties were a huge hit. We're going to look to do more of those next year as well. Chris, Drew, it was a disappointing season, but I always love doing this show with you guys because I always end up feeling a lot better. I always end up laughing, and I let go of the bitterness and hate a lot quicker than I used to.
Well, God knows we have to.
That is so well said right there.
Ruby, thank you so much for making these shows happen. Without her, none of this would even be possible. So thank you.
Ted.
Yeah.
We got a lot of that coming up, right? With what's his name? Who says that again?
Mel Kiper.
That's right.
Yeah.
We're going to be switching back to Saturdays in the off season.
Oh, yes, we are.
So I want to throw that out there. Our regular studio shows are going from Friday to Saturday, and then we will go back Saturday to Friday next year to confuse even more.
Yep. Because we're crazy like that. We're innovative and creative, unlike the Minnesota Vikings offense. So, again, thanks to Toonses for everything that you've done to make this show go off, either the studio show and the live show. For Chris, for Drew, for Ruby, thank you everybody so much for watching us.